Hi everyone, welcome to another video. My name's Dave West and in this video I'm going to talk about my journey learning to downwind foil. I'm going to be very honest about it. So this is going to be a longer video, sort of a talking head. My fear in making this video is that I don't want to put people off downwinding, and I don't want to come across as unlikable. Oh, come on! To be honest, because I'm going to show some stuff that's, it's a bit, ugh. Anyway, I think the disciplines that you come from when you go into downwinding makes a big difference to the experience you'll have. So if you've come from sup downwinding or even sup surfing, surf ski downwinding, any of those types of sports, you'll have a significant advantage. And just psychologically, you have a significant advantage, even if you don't know how to foil yet. And I want to talk about that. But I came from, I've wakeboarded and kite surfed, and I've never done any downwinding sports whatsoever. So downwinding has never been in any sports that I did, because when I kite surfed, let's say, I never did downwinders. I was a freestyle rider or a wave rider. And that's just an important piece of context that I came to learn, that where you come from makes a big difference. So I don't know if I should start with the good or the bad. And so I would like to just start with the good, because a lot of what I'm going to say is very negative, and I'm aware of that. And the reason I waited to do this video was because I wanted to do it when I'd actually had some runs where I could say that I can downwind now. And I think I can. I haven't had an ace run yet, but I'm learning that a lot of people don't have ace runs for a long time. So I'm not going to wait a year to make this, but it might take that long. My current progression is that in the last 3 sessions, I've increased my distance on foil by about 400%. So I had a session about 2 weeks ago where I was on foil for, say, on average 300 to 500 meters, and then I make a mistake and fall. The following session was about 2 kilometers on foil, and then I make a mistake and fall. And that's just, it's partly fatigue and certain spots on the run that the bumps get a bit funky. And then this last session that I had, I was on foil for about 4 kilometers. And so there's just been this exponential increase in time on foil. And with that is to me, it seems like there's an exponential decrease in suffering, obviously. And now I want to break that apart a bit. And that is to say that when you're learning, like I said, if you fall off, so you say you paddle out, say 500 meters offshore, and then you try and get on foil, and you've come in, say, 100 meters in that time, then you have to try again. You either paddle back out 100 meters, or you're now closer inshore and the bumps are worse and you're more likely to not get up again, and so on and so forth. So you've got all this energy expenditure to try and get back out into the bumps. Whereas once I did that first, say, 2 kilometers, I was able to cut out to sea. So when I did fall, I was in a great spot. Like, it was great bumps. I'm far enough out that I can just catch my breath. So what also happens is downwinding gets exponentially easier the better you get, which seems really obvious. But the experience of it is so meaningful. Like, I don't have the same stress that I had going to do a downwind run. I used to be so stressed, like, oh my gosh, I have to psych myself up. I have to accept that I'm going to be exhausted and cranky and hungry. And now I can know that, okay, if I get up, or if I fall, it's not that big a deal. There's a video that I put up on Instagram, which a lot of people connected with. And I had some people say back to me like, oh, you're being a bit hard on yourself. But it's actually because that was on a run where I'd fallen a couple of times and I kept having to paddle back out because I wasn't on foil long enough. And so I was so exhausted. So then when you make a mistake, it's so frustrating because you have to expend more energy and you're tired and you just want to have a good run. And, you know, if I'd fallen off and been able to get cut out to sea further, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But that's the thing. It gets exponentially easier the longer you're on foil because you get out further. It also gets easier being on foil the longer you're on foil because you tend to be able to cut out as well and the bumps tend to get better. So then you get exposure to better bumps, you can make better decisions, and being on foil gets easier. So not only does paddling up get easier if you fall off, being on foil gets easier. And that obviously means that completing the run gets easier. And so there's this very sharp acceleration in ease, enjoyment, bump quality that you'll experience when you start to be on foil for longer. John Mann talks about this. He sent me a cool graph, and you can go check out the Casey group if you haven't seen it, but he talks about that. So where I'm at now is if I had a windy day, I don't even want to go winging unless it was, you know, offshore and the swell. I really think downwinding is the ultimate foil discipline. And you hear people say that, but the reason it's significant that I'm saying it now is because I didn't believe that at all. I was a real naysayer. And I think I honestly went into learning downwind out of pride, being like, well, it's the new thing. Everybody's doing it. Everybody says it's great, but I think it's pretty shit. And I reached this point in learning it where I really didn't know why I was learning it. And I went, this sucks. I'm just going to go back to winging and prone. And I'm never going to get good at this. And I had a real bad mindset around learning it. And there was sort of this part of me that just went like, oh, fuck this. I'm going to beat this thing. Genuinely, that's what happened. I just went, fuck this shit. I'm not going to let this sport beat me, because it was beating me real bad. And now that I've learned enough that I'm getting to the point that I can enjoy a run, it is so amazing. Like, it really is. It's such an adventure every time you go. And the experiences you're having are so special. And it's very much worth the suffering, which is absurd to say given how much it requires for some people. Not everybody, but some people. Where I'm at now, I've waited a long time to make this video. I think it's been about 6 months since I started learning to downwind. I went into SurfFX and I bought a board. I bought the Casey downwind board and I bought the P&G 1300 and a paddle, and I sort of just went into it thinking that it wouldn't be too bad. I learned to wing fairly quickly. I learned to foil fairly quickly. And like dock starting, I got it in the first go, whereas, you know, that takes some people months. So my hope is that you don't have the experience that I've had learning to downwind, but I suspect you will, because I see a lot of very talented riders and they are struggling as bad as I did. The other context is that I live on the Sunshine Coast, which is the east coast of Australia for anyone in the States. And we typically don't get great wind, whereas places like Perth on the west coast, they get amazing wind. And I think if you were learning to downwind at a place like Perth through summer, it's going to be pretty easy other than the weed and other factors that they have. But if you get a place with very good bumps, with no swell, consistent wind over 15, 18 knots, it's a lot easier to learn. Whereas I was learning in subpar conditions, that made things really difficult. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about is the psychological barriers to downwind foiling and learning to downwind foil. I want to give you an example. One is going downwinding it involves a lot of just paddling, like laying prone on the board and paddling out to whether it's paddling out to do just a little onshore run in the bumps. So say you paddle out 1 kilometer just on your belly paddling, and then you get up and try and practice your paddle ups and come into the shore. You do so much paddling I really underestimated how much just prone paddling you do, like surf paddling. And it's a real pain in the ass. I have to say, it was one of the things that annoyed me the most and has annoyed me the most in the whole journey. So because every time say you even try and do like a little 2 kilometer run and you paddle out to the wind line, but you struggle to get up, you slowly come in closer and closer to the shore. And so what do you have to do? You have to then get on your belly, paddle back out further, past the shark nets or where the bumps are better. And you end up, it's so physical. And I've surfed for a long time, but learning to downwind has been the most distance paddling I've probably had to do in a lot of those sessions. It's very annoying. And I fucking hate it. I still hate it. So we've got a downwind run that you have to come out of a river mouth and you go around a headland. And it's probably a good 700-800 meter paddle. And I hate it still. But you need to do it. You need to get out far enough that the bumps are there. And it was one of the big mistakes I've made in my downwinding was I would never paddle out far enough. And then you end up actually paddling more because you didn't paddle out far enough the first time. So if you paddle out further, the bumps get better, which means you're more likely to get up, which means you're less likely to have to paddle back out because you're up on foil. So just something to be aware of is how much paddling you will do. And I mean paddling, not paddling. Oh. Yeah. So my current injury is actually from too much prone paddling. So I've been doubling up, prone surfing in the morning and then downwinding in the afternoon. And I've been doing something like 3 hours of, maybe not that long, probably 2 hours of paddling in the morning and then say the half-hour paddle to get out, and then any paddle up. So it's a significant overuse injury, which is giving me dramas. All right, so that's the paddling. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was what to do when it's windy. For a while there, the thing that slowed my progression was that I kept going winging because every session I had trying to downwind was fucking horrible. I heard James Casey say with Dave Clammer, like, expect to have 2 bad sessions. That's bullshit. You should expect to have about 10 bad sessions, maybe more. I reckon I'm probably at 12 really bad sessions. And by I mean really bad, I mean not getting up on foil, spending most of the time just standing on a board in windy ocean, getting up on foil and then crashing constantly over 2 kilometers. When 2 kilometers takes you 2 hours, it's pretty brutal. It is exhausting. I haven't gone up in, feels like forever. Got really wonky through here. Standing up was like, I was getting hit by backwash. Then every time a good bump comes, as soon as the trough sucks in, as it sucks, my board goes bloop, bloop, bloop. So I'm not paddling hard enough, but my fucking, everything fucking adds up, hey. This is rotating, so I can't get any power down while it rotates. There's a bump. But my feet are cramping. So close, but I've had enough. But I just want to get up. One more. All the way in. Like I'm actually in the wind line now, but now I can't get up. I'm getting so tired already. My feet hurt. Cramp. So that expectation should be, you should just accept that you're going to have 10 to 15 fucking horrible sessions. Unless, like I said before, you live in a place where the wind's amazing and the bumps are amazing and you're on the right gear and you already know how to paddle. But I think the average person, that's what you should expect. 10 to 15 horrible sessions. Some of the sessions, some of the runs I had, like, ruined my week. And I mean that, like, I got kids and I'm sort of stepping into the next thing that I want to talk about, which is the strain, the psychological strain of learning to downwind. I've never experienced anything like it. Like I said, I've done so many board sports. I've done many challenging things in my life. Like, I'm a professional musician. I've been to university and gotten degrees, and the unique challenge of learning to downwind for me has been pretty brutal. And I fucking hated learning it. I really have. The learning journey has been so shit. But anyway, what was I talking about? I've forgotten. I got distracted by the suffering. Okay. Yep. So I've had many runs where I haven't got up on foil.
I have a question. Why can't I get up today? Bumps are super confused. There's multiple directions. It's been swinging easterly to southeasterly, and I just cannot get up today. Like, I can't. Yesterday, no problems. Today, I've gone this far and I haven't been able to get up. It's very frustrating. I don't know what to do. I've got this side shore thing that keeps knocking me over.
So one of the big mistakes was that I would go winging instead of downwinding, because my downwinding experiences were so bad that I didn't want to experience that. I'd had a rough week with family and stress, and so why would I then want to go and do something that was genuinely horrible? Like, you're going to have a shit experience. And I would delay going out. So psychologically, I actually avoided going on downwinders when it was windy. And that slowed my progression by probably a couple of months. And it was mainly in the paddle ups. So there was some real hard lessons that I had to learn about where I would paddle up, the geography of where the wind would come, and I kept making the same mistake, and I couldn't distinguish between my paddle up technique or the geography of where I was. I've now learned that it was actually where I was that meant I couldn't paddle up properly, and the bumps just were sort of non-existent. It was a mix of swirl and backwash. And anyway, you have to learn those things, unfortunately. And I think one of the big lessons that I did learn was, and people said this to me, James said this to me, you need to embrace the suffering. And it really is, I think it's probably the main thing you need to approach downwinding in the beginning phase, is you really have to accept a solid period of suffering. And I think I sort of thought that would be physical, but it's mainly psychological. When you go to the effort to organize a shuttle and to get your wife to pick you up, or a friend or whatever, or you go with other crew, and there's just so many disappointments, you don't get up. You have inconvenienced somebody else because they have to pick you up. You're late to make dinner because you couldn't get up and you ended up out there for 2 hours longer. There are so many reasons that the learning phase sucks. And you just have to accept that. I sort of learned that I needed to make an agreement with my wife that learning this sport was going to be painful for me and for her, because it was they're big chunks of time. I can't just go out for an hour surf and know that I'll be back. Like, when I did a 6 kilometer run, I didn't know if it was going to take me 45 minutes or 3 hours. And often it'll take you 2 hours. It's bloody horrible. And this might just be me because I have ADHD and I'm a perfectionist in some sense. But I would then be so cranky because I failed the run that then I brought that home with me. So if I had a bad day at work and then I'd try and go do a run, and then I had a bad run, it was just like bad on bad. And then, cranky kids or whatever. So make an agreement with your partner. Just, you're going to be, there's there are some people that just aren't like this, but I'm not one of those people. I get cranky when I have a bad time for 2 hours on the ocean. You know, it's a very frustrating learning journey. Another thing to talk about is learning in good conditions. And I mentioned this in my learning to wing video, and I do think there is some cross-pollination. And that's that the wind conditions will dictate how well you can learn. So if you're in a place that does have, say, a good bay run with good wind, I think you'll find it easier to learn. Whereas I was in a place where there's almost always swell mixed in with the bumps, and I made a lot of mistakes around trying to catch swell rather than wind chop, but also just not really having enough sessions where I got to experience what good bumps look like. I had so many sessions where I was going out in 12 knots and the bumps were just crap, and they're mixed in with swell, and you could never really get I never knew what I was looking for because I never saw them. Now that I've had really good sessions with good wind, with no swell, now I can see, like, sometimes you have to pick a bump that's actually on the top of a swell. So you'll have like a swell line, but on top of it, there's a wind bump. And sometimes that's the one you have to get, because the big trough that comes behind, say, the swell, sort of, it can suck out. It feels like it sucks out the energy of some of the wind bumps, but sometimes you'll find one at the top. But you don't learn those things, firstly, unless you're out there suffering. But secondly, if you never get to see what a real good bump looks like. So if you can go to a place where for a week you could just downwind, it's like I wish I could have just gone to Perth for a week. Honestly, I think I could have learnt to downwind in a month, less than a month, if I'd lived in Perth. I don't. So Perth people, don't ever want to hear you whinging. It's not the same experience as people on the East Coast. Happy to take some heat for that, but I'm sorry. If you live somewhere like Hobart, where you could have these, some bay runs where there's very minimal swell and really good wind, you're sweet. But that's just one of the realities, is if you never get to see good bumps, you don't know what to look for. And now I can see where the bumps are hiding in the swell a bit better. Learning to flat water paddle up really got me hung up. I just got so obsessed with it, thinking that I would, like, my rationale, and people still say this back to me and I think they're wrong, is, someone will say to me now, can you flat water paddle up the wing? And I'll say yes. And they go, well, then you should be sweeting the bumps. And I don't think that's the case. I think that would be the case if there was good wind, but I'm often going out when there's not good wind. And paddling up, I think, in the sort of bumps that we get in certain spots is a lot harder than flat water paddling up, because they're not really bumps. They're sort of like, I don't even know what they are. I called them a mud cake once because they're just like square on top. There's no trough. I got so obsessed with paddling up, thinking that that would translate to success in the bumps. And that was a big mistake that I made. Like, I wasted so much time. It would be a windy day and I would go find a place that was hidden away from the wind in flat water and practice my paddle ups in flat water. Such a waste of time. As soon as you can paddle straight, as soon as you can get some sort of bump action in the flat, it's time to translate that into the actual ocean. It was such a stupid mistake that I made. And people told me, and I just had this theory that if I could get up in the flat water, I could easily get up in the bumps. It's just not the case. I learned a lot in the James Casey group, and he just kept saying to me, it's about the timing. And it's not, it is about the timing. Absolutely. That's the main thing, but it's different foot pressure. It's a different paddle reach. When you make a mistake, you have to compensate in different ways too. And so those things that you learn in the flat water don't really translate that well, other than, like I said, paddling straight and activating the foil. They don't translate that well. Becoming a pro at that doesn't mean anything to the bumps, really, other than paddling straight and activating the foil. Everything else is so different, because say you'll take off and say a bump will come, because sometimes you can have bumps coming from different directions, obviously. And sometimes you'll start and a bump will turn you. It's like, that's not going to happen in the flat water. There's nothing to turn you other than your paddle. So there are all these little nuances of paddling up in the ocean that are so different. And spending all that time trying to learn in the flat, I missed out on getting all those lessons in the ocean, and I should have just gone in the ocean. Josh Koo said something really good on a podcast once, and he just said, you know, pretty much don't go winging for 3 months if you're learning to downwind. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. If you want to learn to downwind, you got to discipline yourself to only go prone, and if it's windy, you go try downwind, and you just battle through it. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't get on your wing unless, you know, it's, even if it's easterly. So say, like for us, that's a straight on shore. Put yourself through the suffering of either going and finding a headland that you can paddle and go straight into the shore, or you paddle straight out. I did that, and my progression just accelerated. Because if you chop and change, you're on a different board and you're on a different foil. And I think you need that repetitiveness on the big board, on the big foil, for those lessons to sink in as quickly as you might like. So there's a sort of a common theme here, which is you need to embrace the suffering. And that means you might not even enjoy foiling for a couple of months. I would, you know, it really, oh man, I wanted to quit so many times. There's a bit of context here that I'm not old by any stretch. I'm 33. I'm reasonably fit, but I am in no way an endurance athlete. I'm naturally strong, but I'm not naturally athletic. And this is an athletic sport. So for me, it's been a little bit unnatural. Whereas, you know, if you've got a long history of being a runner or cycling or something, I think fitness-wise, you'll find this a lot easier, but I didn't, because it's a strength thing. My predisposition is strength. You will find yourself so exhausted from an hour trying to learn to downwind. It is so exhausting, standing on the board, waiting for the bump, going for a paddle up, missing it, falling off the board, climbing back onto the board. Like, I did sessions where I'd try and do 2 kilometers, and I would count on my Strava that I'd done like 30 paddle up attempts. But that's 30 times that you've waited for the right bump, standing there bracing, your core's bracing, your back's bracing, then going for it, you know, spike the heart rate, fall off, have to climb back on the board, catch your breath again, keep going again. It is so exhausting. It really is an extremely taxing taxing thing to learn. And, you know, wing foiling learning to wing was a little bit like that, but as long as you had wind, like, I don't know, I found it a lot easier. So to me, downwind foiling it's like backcountry snowboarding or paragliding. It's the riskiest, it's the most complicated logistically, but in that way, it's the most exciting. And you really are a part of a very small group of people that are able to do that. And there's something satisfying about that. Absolutely. And there are some people that you just shouldn't do it. Like, if you only get to go foiling, you know, a couple times a month, I wouldn't learn it. I would stick with something you've already learnt, because you'll be able to enjoy yourself. But I'm very lucky that I live near the ocean and I can go pretty frequently. And so downwinding isn't for everyone. You know, if you can get a foil drive or something, if you're a bit older or you've got an injury or something like that, get a foil drive and you'll be able to enjoy it, or get a small wing and a downwind board. I think there are alternative ways to learn to downwind that might suit some people. I stubbornly really wanted to learn it with a paddle, and I'm glad that I did, because there's a real sense of freedom that you get from that. But alternatives are, you know, get a 3-meter wing and a Barracuda style board, or like the Amos Sultan or the Casey, his new narrower boards. And, you know, you could have great downwinding experiences if you already knew how to wing with a 3 meter wing, something small, and a long board because they're easier to get up. Or get a 4-wheel drive or something like that. And, you know, there are other ways to do it, obviously. But if you're committed to the paddle and you've got no paddle experience like I did, to wrap up this video, which is very long, prepare for suffering. Just prepare yourself, because psychologically, it is easily the hardest sport I've ever had to learn. I think in a way you need to approach it like you're approaching golf, which is, imagine learning to golf, but while you're learning to golf and you suck, you've got water spraying in your eyes, you're exhausted, there's a little bit of risk of you getting eaten by a shark. You know, like, it's a bit like that. There's so much frustration. Every failure costs you energy, and every failure means that you'll be on the ocean suffering for a lot longer too. So that's it. That's my long explanation of how I have found learning to downwind. And if you're going to do it, kudos to you. You're a beast. And I hope your experience is better than mine. I'm still very much a beginner. So this is not like I'm not giving advice about how to do it. I think people thought I was better than I was way earlier. And a lot of people couldn't figure out why I couldn't get up in the bumps, because they would see videos of me getting up in the flat and I looked competent, but I wasn't in the bumps. My timing was off, and I kept going into shit spots too. That didn't help. So hopefully some more videos coming of downwinding that are of value. You can see my hand shaking. That's my tennis elbow. If anybody has, and I don't want like generic answers, I need like meaningful answers. I have a background in medical devices and orthopedics, so I do know what I'm talking about. But if anyone knows anything really that will help with my tennis elbow from paddling, please let me know. So as a general discussion point that I used to do in some older videos, part of the reason I went a bit quiet on the channel was just I had a real sense of imposter syndrome. And that just made me slow down on videos a bit. But I'm over that now and really stoked to make some more videos. And I'm on the Axis team now, which is so exciting. I'm an ambassador for Amos. I'm on the Kaiohi leash ambassador list for Australia. And got so many awesome new wings that I'm trying out from Axis that they're going to release in the coming months to a year. So that's so exciting, and I'll be making videos to show those wings when they're ready, and also to make some content for Axis. So that's super exciting. I'm going to make some content for Amos, obviously, on their downwind boards and their nitro board, and just try and shred. Really, that's what I want to do. I love prone surfing so much. And what else? I want to do some trips I want to do a trip to Tasmania. So if anybody on here has a camper van or something and they'd like to do a trip around Australia, I'm trying to cut costs. So if you're keen to do that, let me know. If you can film, that's even better. I also want to go up to Cairns to do some downwinding in the trade wind season, which is soon. But I've got a lot of time on my hands now. I only work about 1 day a week. And so I'd love for some opportunities to come up to do downwinding and prone surfing trips that are cheap, because I don't want to spend my children's future making YouTube videos, but I definitely want to do some interesting content for you all. And the more interesting my experience is, the more interesting it hopefully is for you as the viewer. Thanks to everyone who watches along. I know that I can be a little bit inconsistent with my posting, but they tend to. I think I'm trying to move away from the overproduction. So say that if you haven't seen it, I made like it was a 2-minute wrap-up video about the Pump Fest event that we ran with Josh. And that video took me like 10 hours to edit and was like 2 minutes. It was a great video. It was a great, great, but it's so much time, and the video didn't perform the way that I sort of hoped it would. And in reflection, it's because it didn't serve you as viewers any better because it was edited so nicely. It's like people want information, people want tips, people want help in getting better. And so that's what I want to do. I want to produce videos that are back to sort of more of the tutorials, and that mainly that's going to be around prone surfing and downwinding now rather than winging. I'm sort of a bit off winging for now. And then I want to do experiences stuff. So, if you can't get out as often as I can, you can watch a video that makes you feel better. So, well, that's it from me. That's all from this video. I hope you enjoyed the sort of longer version of this, and I'll be doing both. I'll still do my schmick videos, and then I'll sort of do some longer form videos just discussing things that you can put on and listen to in the car. But yeah, thanks heaps. Peace.